City Talks with Reuben Abati.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of your number one talk show, City Talks with Reuben Abati, on your number one lifestyle station, City 1051 FM. On this show, we talk about stories of political and human interest that affect us as Nigerians and also as members of a global human community. Today, we'll be discussing the chairmanship of the People's Democratic Party, the main opposition party in Nigeria. And to take us through this, we have a special guest. It is indeed with great pleasure that I welcome to the program Umar Sani, a man I call Umar Sani the Cat. He and I worked together to manage the communications process in the presidency of Nigeria 2011 to 2015. He is currently a PDP chieftain and, well, as you already probably will suspect, former spokesperson to former Vice President Namadi Sambo. Umar Sani served as Senior Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to Vice President Namadi Sambo. He's an educationist, a politician, a publicist, a sportsman, where I don't know how he manages that. He's a writer, he's also a socialite, and he has made his mark in the annals of Nigerian history. He began his career as a teacher when the teaching profession was exclusively preserved for the best from the academics. After graduating from the Kagoro Teachers College in the early 1980s in Kaduna State, Umar Sani took up appointment with the old Kaduna Local Education Department. He enrolled later at the famous Kaduna Polytechnic, Kaduna, where he got a national diploma in marketing. In 1992, he obtained a higher national diploma in marketing, and he was posted to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, Bauchi State. And later, he worked at the United Bank for Africa, UBA, Bauchi branch, for his 1 year mandatory service for graduates. And later, he got another postgraduate diploma in marketing. With the lifting of the ban on political activities by the military regime of the late General Sani Abacha, he joined active politics, pitching his tent with the Democratic Party of Nigeria as one of that party's founding members at the state level, and he became administrative secretary of the state chapter in Kaduna State. In 1988, with the death of the late general, and the formation of new political parties and structures, Umar Sani joined the newly formed People's Democratic Party, and he was among the first set of members involved in nurturing the party to maturity. He was the party's first administrative secretary in Kaduna State, and that was the position he held until he was appointed Senior Special Assistant on Political Matters to the state governor, that is Governor Namadi Sambo, as he then was, and he held that position from 2003 to 2006. In 2007, when architect Muhammad Namadi Sambo was elected governor of the state, he appointed him Director General, Media and Public Affairs in the state, and later elevated him to the position of Special Advisor to the governor with the same portfolio. When President Umar Musa Yar'Adua died in 2009, and the subsequent appointment of Governor Sambo, as he then was, as the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Vice President Sambo, as he became, appointed Umar Sani his Senior Special Advisor on Media and Publicity. Umar Sani is an award-winning journalist, and he's been recognized by many publications in Nigeria for his contributions both to journalism and political governance. If you want to be part of this conversation, you can call us on 0700-1051-1051. And you can also leave comments on WhatsApp 090-991-64403, and on social media accounts at City1051 on Zoom and Facebook. Thank you very much for joining us, Umar Sani the Cat. How are you? Hello, Umar Sani, are you with us in the studio here in Lagos?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Very quickly, let's start with the recent development in the People's Democratic Party. That is the emergence as a consensus candidate of Dr. Iyacha Ayu from Boko, Benue State, from the North Central, as a consensus candidate of the North Central zone of the People's Democratic Party. How significant is this, and what are the implications?
Number one, this is the first time that the PDP will come up, on zonal basis to begin to select candidates for the national chairmanship, and at the end, agree on a consensus candidate. The party had only one consensus candidate throughout the lifespan of the party, and that was Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, when he was contesting for the presidency of the country in 2015. And that was as a result of a lot of horse trading, where most of the people decided to withdraw. However, if any one of them has taken the matter to court, it would have been a different thing, because the constitution of the party is very clear. Nobody can emerge a consensus candidate unless through election. Even if you are the sole candidate, there must be voting. And of course, during Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's time, even though he was the only candidate, there was still voting, where he still emerged. He scored a very significant number of votes of delegates at the National Convention. So the issue now is as to whether there will be any legal challenge or acceptability, because the constitution of the party is very clear as to how there is no room, nothing in the constitution suggests, the acceptability of consensus. It is an issue of an election. That is what the party constitution says. So if at the end of the day, the consensus arrangement is not challenged, and nobody has gone to court to say, okay, this process is wrong, it is against our party constitution, and then Dr. Ayu comes to the National Convention and he is so affirmed by the majority of the vote, then definitely he becomes the national chairman of the party. And challenging him after the convention will amount to an exercise in futility. So the issue is that the National Convention, which was slated for 30th to 31st October, is around the corner. And I think the PDP is in a hurry to reconstitute its National Executive Committee, perhaps for the greater challenges of 2023.
Well, but the issue you raised about consensus, I'm told that in the past, the PDP had adopted consensus to resolve certain issues. And this same time, we've been told that the various positions within the party have already been zoned out. The East, for example, has named some of the people that would occupy those positions. With regard to the North Central, we've been told that the position of National Legal Advisor and the position of the National Auditor will go to, I think is it Kwara and the Federal Capital Territory, respectively. The only part of the country where we seem to have protest over the zoning formula that has been adopted by the PDP is in the Southwest, where in the papers today, it is being reported that for the position of Deputy National Chairman, supporters of former Governor Lagunsoye Oyinlola, who prefer him, are not too happy that Professor Ladipo also wants to be a former secretary of the party. He's also eyeing the position of the Deputy National Chairman. So is it that rotation zoning is alien to the party, because that is what consensus is based on? And even when The Constitution of Nigeria, in Section 14, subsection 3 thereof, recognizes the idea of ensuring inclusiveness and zoning and rotation, more or less.
Similarly, Section 7 of our party constitution also recognizes the concept of rotation and zoning. So zoning is not alien to our constitution. However, in zoning these positions, care must be taken that equity, fairness, and justice must prevail. Now, in zoning particular offices, there are also certain considerations that you have to give to those areas, where votes normally come from. You cannot discountenance the performance of the Southwest in terms of support for the PDP. In 2011, when President Goodluck Jonathan won the presidency, about 48% or 49% of the votes of Southwest was given to the PDP. So it is entirely not true that the PDP is not very strong in the Southwest. And of course, don't forget that at a particular point in time, only Lagos State has not been ruled by the PDP in the Southwest. The PDP had the last PDP governor in Ondo State was before this man the come to the PDP, died. Even though he was removed by court process, by the same person who removed him, died. Then if you go to Ekiti State, PDP has always had it, So go to Ogun State, PDP had always been there, and even Osho State, where Olaguchi was elected, PDP had always had a field day, because in Ogun State, Benga Daniel was governor. There was a lot of PDP governors around there, and they have held sway more than any other government. So PDP is very strong in the Southwest. So that recognition should be given to them, so that the Southwest will now galvanize, because they appear to be the joker in terms of securing the presidency of the country. They provide the necessary impetus. Don't forget that the major players of the APC, the leader of the APC, Chief Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the Jagaban, of Borgu from Lagos, has always tried to sway the votes towards his own party. However, at even the last presidential election, it can be viewed that the PDP gave a good fight, if not for the fact that in Lagos, certain polling stations were attacked and destroyed. The results would have been different. So, like I said, PDP has shortchanged the Southwest. I know that in 1999, President Olusegun Obasanjo from the Southwest became president. Nevertheless, after that, after his service, and subsequently, the position which was zoned to the Southwest, which is the speaker, went to the Northwest. Tambuwal was the speaker. So, and the only thing the Southwest was able to get was House leader, which was held by Molika. And so I know that prior to the coming of Tambuwal, the Southwest had the speaker of the Olajimeji, Bankole, was the speaker. And of course, there was also a lady, I've forgotten her name, who was also the speaker before Olajimeji Bankole became speaker. So there were all these things within.
Are you referring to Honorable Patricia Ete From Osun State.
Yes, Patricia. Yes, Patricia Ite.
From
No,
Osun State.
so yes, from Osun State. So the Southwest had, but they had gradually been sidelined. You know, even in party administration, the only Southwest learner that had ever gone to the highest position, you know, before the coming of the current acting chairman was Chief Olabode George, who was also the deputy national chairman of the party. The Southwest has never held the position of party chairman. Party. The majority of the positions of the party, came from the southeast, the north, central, and of course very few from the northwest and south. So I think by and large, if you take a look, the Southwest deserves more. However, in terms of choices, both Olagunse Oyinlola and Oladipo, who was the former secretary, are all very strong members of the party. Although one was a governor, but the other one was also a national secretary of the party. So they have all held party positions previously. Now, we need a strong presence in the Southwest so that we can consolidate on the general achievements of the PDP, because the PDP is very ready, very willing, and very able to wrest power from the non-performing APC.
Anyway, okay, let me jump the gun. I'll come back to some of the other issues. You're saying that the PDP is ready. But is the PDP really ready? Will it be able to win the confidence of Nigerians and enjoy the wide acceptability among Nigerians that it once enjoyed? Do you think that the party is ready, given the many contradictions that have been thrown up, even from your own comments?
Yeah, I would say that the party is ready, not individual persons. Now, Nigerians, I would say, have already zeroed their minds that they have tested the two. You had PDP for 16 years, and they have had APC for 8 years, and they have a basis for comparison. When APC came, they made a lot of promises, and they failed almost in all their promises. And so Nigerians know the difference. Like the 7-Up jingle, the difference is clear. So Nigerians are very much willing to vote for the PDP. It is very important that the PDP put its own house in order. And putting the house in order is the process which has begun. However, I know that there are some other issues emerging issues that may come up later. But even at that, at least to show semblance that you are ready to do something is also part of preparation towards, predetermined outcome. So we are very confident that as time goes by, PDP will definitely, settle all their grievances, either through court orders that will give direction as to how and what to be done, or even through lobbying and mutual understanding within party, where it is all the differences will be resolved, and then the party will forge ahead towards 2020.
Well, I mean, why will you be a politician if you are not optimistic? Politicians are animals of optimism. They always hope for the best. But you are saying all of this, that the PDP is ready at a time when Femi Adesina, presidential spokesman, is on record as having said that President Muhammadu Buhari, the incumbent president, is even more popular among Nigerians than Awolowo and the late Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. And then what we know also is that in many parts of the country, governors from the PDP have been defecting into the APC. Senators have been defecting ahead of the gubernatorial election in Anambra on November 6th. The deputy governor has left the ruling ABGA in that state. Members of the House of Assembly have also moved over, they've potted, Nigerians like to say, to the ruling APC. And yet here you are saying that the PDP is ready. And yet what we hear is the disagreement over zoning restructuring and who should lead the party.
Let me start by saying that the comment made by Premier Additional is forgivable because as at the time the political parties in the First Republic were waxing stronger and the people were caught light in their love of their leaders. He was a very young man, so he didn't really understand how much they were loved. Although they were regional leaders, but in their respective regions, because of the parliamentary system of government at that time, they were hero worshipped. They were in fact at a point in time in the north, if you mention the Sadana of Sokoto in any negative way, you will be lynched because you have to mention him in a positive way. If the popular saying by Amin Kanu was coined during the period of Sadana that Nigeria is one, but everybody knows his father's house. What he meant was when they had although they normally fight in public between the Northern Elements Progressive Union and the Northern People's Congress, but when they go back home, after they fight public, they reconcile, and the NEPU normally follows what the MPC wants because for the interest of the northern region. So the Sadana was popular in the north, principally because his type of politics was not religious, it was not ethnic, it was not sectional. He carried everybody along. I'll give you numerous examples. When Tafawa Balewa was, I read this in a book called Ribadu. Ribadu was the former Minister of Defense.
Yes.
Yes. So Ribadu wrote in that book that at one point the premier of the northern region sent 3 names to the prime minister so that they will be employed as undersecretaries to learn the ropes of governance. And the 3 of them that were sent at that time were Chief Sunday Awoni, Julie Tanko Yusuf, and Professor Isha Aoud. They were sent to the prime minister to go and start work there. So when the Sadana wrote and Tafawa Balewa got them, he got the letter and he collected them, he hosted them. Then after interviewing them, he wrote back to the Sadana that these people are inexperienced. They do not have any experience to run that type of office. So before they left back to the north, they went to Ribadu to bid him farewell and to tell him this is the response of the prime minister. And so they are going back to go and report. The prime minister, the minister of defense, then told them to wait and sleep in his house. The next day, he packed all his belongings and put them into a trailer and drove straight to State House Marina. When he came in and the prime minister saw a trailer inside the State House, he asked, who is that? And they said, it is Ribadu. He said, yes, there is nobody who can do this except Ribadu. So he came out. When he came out, he saw Ribadu. He said, Ribadu, why did you come inside the State House with a trailer? He said, I have already packed my loads and they're inside. I have come so that you will also pack your load. and put in the trailer so that all of us can go back to North. And he said, why? He said, because the Southerners sent these people, and you said they don't have experience. And I want you to tell me whether you had an experience of being prime minister before you were given. You have never been prime minister before. You have never done the work of prime minister, but you have been given. So if you don't give them the chance to learn, how would they have experience? You expect experience. That is the committee and the life of the people of that area. So they were so loved by the people, generally on the basis of the fact that they carried everybody along. Now, Chief Awolowo was so hero worship that in the Yoruba land, if you say anything against Awoism, you are considered to be a bastard. In fact, that also transcended to even his associates. Bola Ige could win election at any time by just mentioning that they are Awoists, they are the remaining Awoists, and and so forth. And so people loved Awolowo to that extent. In fact, at a point, Awolowo ventured into the north, and he was using helicopters and spreading messages and trying to be a national leader as well. So Azikiwe was also a very popular person, very notable person in the Nigerian political equation. Although they were regional leaders, but they were also national heroes. So for somebody to now bring in Buhari and say he is more popular than all of them, no, I want to disagree. The popularity of Buhari came principally because religion was used and ethnicity was used, and of course the merger, of political parties also contributed to him winning. If the APC, the ACN had not merged with the rest of political parties, the presence of APC in the Southwest would have been very minimal. And so Buhari would still have been carrying his votes from the North only. So he was also more or less like a regional champion. And I don't think if you take a holistic look at the votes from the North, that if Sadona were to be around and to compare him with Buhari, whether Buhari will ever carry the day, definitely he won't. So, Femi Adesina can be excused for not being a part of that time, and of course for not understanding the dynamics of political revolution.
When you say Femi Adesina can be excused, are you accusing him of being a poor student of history? Because I see that.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, because if he has understood the historical background of and the evolution of political parties in Nigeria and the roles about Macaulay and the rest played in ensuring that the political parties are well entrenched, he cannot come and begin. He can't talk about Buhari. In that sense, Buhari came in at a period where there was, a northern discontent as to the rulership of the country. They not wanted to become president, after Obasanjo, and so he came in 2003, and because he was feared against Obasanjo in 2003, the North and South took a position that PDP is for the Southerners, and then ANPP was for the Northerners. That was how his emergence started generating votes for him. Otherwise, Femi Adesina cannot even be talking about Buhari being more popular than Sir Ahmad Bello.
Okay.
Even in terms of achievement, the type of competition that they had was very, very elaborate. Anytime the Sadona was always, with copying what Awolowo was doing. Anything Awolowo built, the Sadona built it. The Awolowo built Cocoa House. Sadona built NNDC. Awolowo built Liberty Stadium. The Sadona built Ahmadu Bello Stadium. Even when they built hotel, Hamdala Hotel was also built. So anything Awo does, it was a competition of you built University of Ibadan. I built Ahmadu Bello University. So these were the type of healthy competition in terms of infrastructure, in terms of you know, love for the people, and thinking ahead, being futuristic for the people of the country. And how can somebody who has been in government since 2015, which Nigeria's economy is dwindling, the security situation is worsening, and corruption is endemic, now be compared with those people who had no zero record of corruption?
Okay, Umar Sani, let's go back to our original topic about the emergence of a new chairman for the People's Democratic Party in the presence of Dr. Yochia Ayu. I asked you about the implications, and that was deliberate. Implications one, for the continued stay in office or otherwise of suspended, in quotes, chairman of the party, Prince Uche Secondus. Two, does the emergence of Iyochi Ayu mean that the matter of the chairmanship of the party has been resolved, despite the fact that there is a case in court by Prince Uche Secondus challenging his alleged suspension by his word, which will automatically affect his fortunes? And then third, does it mean that Dr. Yochi Ayu is now in charge of the party, or the constitution of the party remains supreme, that the tenure of the National Executive Committee does not end until December? And what are the implications of all of this for the proposed National Convention at the end of October?
The first thing I will say is that my reactions will be mixed. First, if there is a court case and Prince Uche Secondus has not withdrawn that court case, and the court case is determined in his favor, then there is a huge problem. The problem is that he was sidelined. Now, it was alleged that his word suspended him. And the party constitution of the PDP in chapter 10 is very clear, on the procedure for discipline within the party. Even if the party suspended him, there were certain procedures that the party ought to do. They had to write to him for him to respond. And if they are not satisfied, they suspend him for 1 month, then constitute a panel of inquiry that will now investigate and report back. And then if that panel finds him guilty, then the party can now take a decision as to the various things to do. There is a reprimand, there is suspension, there are so many. That is if he is an ordinary member of the party. Unfortunately for the party, he is not an ordinary member, he is the chairman of NEC. And being the chairman of NEC members are protected by the constitution, because the NEC has already envisaged that a national chairman can be, just the way Oshomole can be removed from his board. So they said no, this type of things, all NEC members cannot be removed from their board, local government or state. It has to be NEC that can remove members. However, the ward can, if they have a case, can proceed and hand over the case to the party can hand over the matter to NEC, and the NEC will deliberate, and if they find him guilty, the NEC will sanction him. And nothing of such had been done. So the issue for determination in the court will be to determine whether his suspension by the Gamer Court perpetually was in compliance with the party constitution, and whether it was in order, and whether it has followed all laid down processes. as enshrined in the party constitution, and whether the court had the power to even perpetually suspend him from that. In certain interviews, you know, held by the River State government, they had always advocated that he removed him, because of non-performance. Now, if you are saying he didn't perform, there are processes that the NEC can take to remove the non-performing officer or officers. Now, if the National Working Committee are the ones that are non-performing, then the National Working Committee should have been removed. But if somebody is singled out and removed, it means there is an agenda ahead, and that his presence will obstruct that agenda. And that is why an order was sought to put him aside and to achieve a predetermined action, line of action in the future, which is what is happening now. He has been put aside so that all these plans will emerge. So the implication for all this arrangement is that should Secondus succeed in the court, then everything now reverts back to status quo ante. And once it reverts back to status quo ante, it means that Secondus will be in charge of the party till December 10, when his tenure will expire. And he also has the right to signify interest to recontest, because he has an additional 4 years, to do. So if he wants to contest for additional 4 years, he has the right to do so. So the implications are many, and the arrangements could also be flawed. This arrangement could be flawed, and then of course, finally, I do not subscribe to the issues, where people will emerge, unchallenged. I think it's not the popularity of the person is not tested, and I think it affected the PDP in 2015, because if you understand how Goodluck Jonathan came in 2011, you understand that in certain states, Atiku was able to defeat him, and so even that convention led to the party knowing that in certain states we have problems. We had problem in Kano because they voted for Atiku. We had problem in Kaduna. We had problem in, so those areas we had problems. So we understood how to approach those. But if you go if somebody is just given a strict mandate, you will not even understand the issue until he begins to exercise, responsibility. Then the issues will now start cropping up, and then it will have been too late to amend. Okay. I believe that. I believe that Yocha Ayu's consensus arrangement is faulty.
Oh, you believe it's faulty? Okay, that's an interesting point.
It's faulty.
Yes, but I'll come back to that, because earlier on I raised the issue about some members of the party questioning consensus, even if the party had adopted consensus approach much earlier, even if it is not written expressly into the constitution. But still talking about the future of the party, here is a comment online on Zoom from our colleague Kike Lomo Atondawo. She says, in the past 6 months, PDP lost 3 sitting governors to the ruling party: Ben Ayade, Dave Umahi, and the latest being Bello Matawale of Zamfara State. A few months ago, we also saw the defection of some others, including Femi Fani-Kayode, to the APC. Besides the disarray in the PDP camp, which seems to be a pointer to a lack of organization, does this mean or say that the APC, the ruling party, has strong players who are willing to serve Nigeria, because we're yet to see any strong opposition from the PDP? She's saying more or less that the PDP is not ready and the APC seems to have stronger candidates. Do you share that view?
Yeah, if you examine how PDP, was evolving since the coming of this administration of President Muhammad Buhari, you will understand that Dave Umahi of Ebonyi State had always, you know, said Buhari is his father, Buhari is this, even while he's in the PDP. He had always, you know, shown respect, and love for President Buhari. So it is no wonder that he left the party for uh, for for APC. Uh, Similarly, Ben Ayade had also been very, very supportive of the Buhari administration. And I think we had a one-on-one sometime when we visited him in Cross River State, and he told us then that the president called him, and spoke to him and said he wants them to, you know, allies, be together, and he felt he needed to respect the president. So that was why he was giving him the maximum cooperation. He was not criticizing in public and so forth and so on. So it came to a situation now where now he had to even move to the party. But both, by and large, both of them blamed the River State governor for their exit. Even Motawale himself blamed the River State governor for his own exit. He felt that the governors didn't help, and when they even pledged to give him 150 million, it was only the Delta State governor, Okoa, that gave him something, and all the others failed in their bid. But that Governor Wike gave someone 500 and gave Otom 200, but nothing was given to him as a PDP governor. So most of them left because they felt they needed federal support, since they were not even getting it from their colleagues. They thought they were their brothers keepers and would work together, and so they left. But nevertheless, whether they left or not, that is not a pointer to the fact of the weakness of the PDP. Don't forget that prior to the coming of in 2019, Bukola Saraki and Dogara, Speaker, and so a lot of members of the House, they left the APC for the PDP. But it still didn't change the equation for the APC. So there are certain things that will not work for you, even it is not, especially those who are living, who are going for their second term. A governor who has done his second term at the last year ban of his second term, that is when you see defection. That's what happened in Abga, when the deputy governor can now afford to defect, because he knows that it's only 1 year remaining, and so if he is removed, the time remaining is little. So if he is removed, no hala, he can manage to stay away from that position within that period. So it's a normal political alignments and realignments within that period, but it still doesn't change the fact that the people of Cross River are PDP and the people of Ebonyi are PDP.
Okay. Well, Umar Sani, usually on this program, we allow listeners to also join us and also send in questions and also participate. But it looks like, I don't know, maybe we'll need to extend the program today just to accommodate a few more issues. But I was going to ask you, you talked about Governor Nyesom Wike. Governor Nyesom Wike and Femi Fani-Kayode, who also defected from the PDP to the APC. They've been engaged in very bitter altercation in the last few days. What's your take on that? I mean, I know you and I worked with Femi Fani-Kayode in government for the PDP, but now, and also along with Governor Nyesom Wike within the party at the time. But now, all the people who are leaving the PDP, they turn around and there's this big acrimony. And yet you say that the PDP will be able to resolve this crisis. Are you really sure?
Yes, you see, the issue of Fani-Kayode and Yusuf, is an issue where his defection, created a lot of national outcry. And in his own contribution, Governor Yusuf cast aspersions on the person and the integrity of President Fani Kari. And so he also responded. I think nobody's integrity will be tuned upon and he will keep quiet. So he also came out to respond. And in his response, he mentioned very four or five critical areas. He said that President Goodluck Jonathan even lost his position principally because he was supporting Wiki, and that how much of that has Wiki appreciated? How has he appreciated President Goodluck? He also mentioned, the issues of how he insulted a traditional ruler, in public, how he also, in fact, other things he tried to rationalize is that, how can a governor say that he will not participate in Anambra election because the APC candidate is strong? Does that show loyalty? And so, if people move from one party to another, is it a crime in Nigeria? Those are the issues that he tried to, and then he now called the governor a bully. And he said he has never said the governor is his friend. And the governor said that, in fact, he doesn't make friends with such people. So these were the exchanges. What Fanika they even said more was that even Onoge, the former chief justice of the country, had an issue because he came to commission projects Rivers, and that also gave the APC, an insight as to whether he is close to the PDP or not. And so it was also part of the issues that were responsible for his removal. So these are serious and weighty allegations, and we're waiting for Yes and Wike to respond to them, because now Fanika Ede is no longer a PDP person. Instead of what we can no longer say it's an internal affair. Now it's a party, one party versus another. And these are issues that are likely going to affect our chances. Because if our leaders are being interrogated and being challenged in public with such weighty allegations, they need to respond.
Okay, well, we just need to be very brief now so that we can stretch the program a little to be able to take more reactions from the public. What is the party expecting from Dr. Yochi Ayu? What do you think are the priorities for the party, the PDP, going forward, considering the fact that the PDP suffers a great problem in terms of perception? The party has been projected by the opposition as a party that caused all the problems. And now you have Dr. Yochi Ayu, being a consensus candidate. I asked you earlier, is he going to take over immediately, or he will still have to wait till the tenure of the present ESCO expires? And if it happens that the candidate of the party for the presidency emerges from the North Central, where would that leave Dr. Yochi Ayu?
I see the issue is as to whether he's going to take over immediately or not will be dependent on the convention planning committee. If the convention planning committee have scheduled that by 31st October, when the elections are over and the votes have been counted, Dr. Ayu takes over immediately, then there is a constitutional crisis, because our party constitution says Kondos was elected to serve for a period of 4 years, and his 4 years will not expire until on the 9th. And on the 10th, a new chairman will emerge. Now, if that is done...
10th of December. 10th of December,
yes,
2020.
10th of December. Yes, 10th of December. So if anything is shortened to that effect, and the NEC cannot, has no powers to reduce anybody's tenure, because the tenure is in our constitution, and it's very clear. It's for a period of 4 years. So the NEC cannot come and say, okay, no, except the National Convention. The National Convention can be an amendment can be taken to the National Convention, where the National Convention will now approve that amendment and say, okay, now a person can be removed, and the tenure of the new person starts immediately after his election. But anything short of that is a negation of our constitution, and it will not see the light of the day in legal fireworks. Now, your second question, the coming of Ayu. My major problem with the coming of Ayu is that he appears to be an agent, because
excuse me.
I don't know why somebody
Hello.
appears to be an agent of some particular interest, because I wonder why a national chairman will now say that if a presidential candidate emerges from another section from the north, he will now resign. That means he has been forced to accept that he has to understand this before he can be supported, and he has agreed to it. So if supposing he now decides that I want to continue as the national chairman, so he will now help somebody from the south to emerge, so that he will continue to hold his position. That is not good for democracy. It is not good for internal party politics, and it is not good for internal democracy.
Okay, at this point, we would like to throw our lines open, to see what reactions, comments we can still take. If you want to be part of this conversation, you can call us on 0700-1051 1051. You can also leave comments on WhatsApp 09099164403, and on social media accounts at City1051 on Zoom and Facebook. Looks like we have our first caller on the line. Hello? Hello? Well, okay, we're still waiting, but here I have Dr. Abiodun Adeniyi on Zoom. He's saying Umar Sani seems to be an intelligent person. Won't he rather contest an election for a political office?
Good afternoon, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, Umar Sani, I will come back to you about you being a very intelligent person. But let's take this caller. Hello, thank you for joining us. Your name, your location.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Reuben. My name is Kenneth from Ikeja.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make some contribution. I've been listening to the program. I just think that this is, whatever we're hearing now is political. What the guest is saying is all political. Talking about Buhari's popularity, well, I don't want to debate that. But from the assertion that he made, talking about religion and ethnicity, even in the other people, okay, let's say, for instance, he was talking about 2011 and 2015 election, that Buhari only won because Southwest joined. PDP had Southeast and South supporting them. Atiku contest in 2019. PDP had South and Southeast supporting him. What was the outcome? Buhari still defeated him. But I'm just saying that to let you know that his assertion, does not really stand. Then, talking about corruption. Corruption in this country today, Buhari never said there's no corruption. In fact, he even said Nigerians are corrupt. The corruption Buhari is fighting today is the corruption that is instituted by PDP. And corruption is still fighting back up to today. The snake that swallowed money during PDP's time, and so many other things that happened. Buhari is still fighting corruption, and corruption is fighting back. And the PDP people are the ones fighting back when it comes to corruption. Then, terrorism. Bombs were going off in this country like Christmas knockout during PDP time. But it's no longer the same. When we're in Lagos here, we're even scared. We're even told not to go to ShopRite, not to go to populated areas and all of that. But that is no longer the case. Then for the insurgency, kidnapping, and all of that, today, who are the sponsors of kidnappers and all of that? It's the politicians. Where did they get the sophisticated weapons that they are using? You arrest a kidnapper, he will tell you he only got 10,000 or 20,000 from the 100 million that they are demanding. Who collects the chunk of the money? Is their sponsors. We should look into that and stop politicizing all these things. Then talking about agitators, the agitators that we have today, what political party do they belong to? Sunday Igboho is a PDP person. Una Dikano is on record that he campaigned for PDP. So many other agitators, they are all PDP. PDP is for NSAS people. We are aware that some PDP people gave them support during NSAS. What are we talking about? He's talking about Wiki. Even he has, by himself, condemned Wiki. I mean, making Wiki, seeing Wiki as a big problem of their party, which is not different from what Fanika is saying. I'm just trying to say by what I just said, that the man is not straightforward. He is economical with the truth. He is being a PDP person.
Thank you very much, Kenneth from Ikeja. But before Umar Sani the cat responds to that, you already have 2 questions, 2 comments on your table now, Umar Sani. Maybe we'll take another caller before I come back to you. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Dr. Reuben.
Good afternoon.
Comrade Ogbanago Mohammed Ibrahim calling from New York.
Okay.
I greet our guests in the studio. First of all, the PDP that call himself a democratic party. Now they are rejecting the proposed direct primary by the National Assembly. A party that call himself a democratic political party. You are rejecting what we have been crying for over the years. Why are they rejecting it? You should tell us, please. Good afternoon.
Yes, thank you. Well, Umar Sani from Dr. Adeni saying you are an intelligent person. As if that's a major discovery. I worked with you.
I thank him very much. And but he should also know, Dr. Abati, that we are technocrats. We only help politicians to succeed. We are politicians in a way, but we are political technocrats. And so we help them to succeed by being their spokespersons, by being their speech writers and so forth and so on. You know the type of job we do in the villa. So standing for elections is not a prerequisite. We have to build a very viral and stable government. And I thank him very much for acknowledging that he finds me very intelligent.
Yes.
Now, coming to the second speaker, he was talking about in 2019, why did Atiku, since he had the support of the Southeast and the South-South, and why didn't he win the election? Well, even before the election, the outcome has already been determined. Well, that is what he didn't know. Because a lot of journalists have asked Mr. President, supposing you lose this election, will you congratulate the winner? And the president has always said he is going to be the one that will win the election. Nobody will win. So he is only going to congratulate himself. So with that type of mindset, and with the incumbency factor, how do you expect anybody to win the election? It was not an open election where Goodluck Jonathan went to a card reader that didn't even capture him, and he gave excuse that INEC was doing well. In fact, he said anybody who wins, that his blood is not what the blood of any Nigerian, and so forth and so on, giving Nigerians the confidence that if he loses, he will hand over. Now, this one is saying, if I cannot even lose, so how can I hand over? So how can you judge that and say Atiku is faced with the same scenario? Then secondly, he talked about bombs permeating everywhere before, but now there are no bombs and so forth and so on. No, there are 2 issues he has to consider. One, Boko Haram was always coming up with different strategies. When they use this strategy, They now change another strategy and change another strategy. I will give him an example. Initially, Boko Haram had officers in the party. Their spokespersons are called Abu Kaka, while the leader is Shekau, and there are other officers. As time went by, they scrapped Abu Kaka, and then they were only concentrating on they were only concentrating on on Shekau, the leader. Now, their initial strategy was to hit at police stations. They now changed from police stations to now start to soft targets of civilians. They now changed from soft targets of civilians to putting bombs everywhere, using child bombers and so forth and so on. As time went by, they now changed. They discovered that the best way that they could defeat Nigeria is to defeat its armed forces. So their strategy, which is what they are using now, is fighting the armed forces of Nigeria. And so they believe if they defeat the armed forces of Nigeria, all other citizens are very easy to defeat. They will have captured us. So it was just merely a change of strategy. It is not because there was any perfection in the part of government, or that government did anything different. Secondly, if you take a look at the crime rate now, the crime has diversified. When PDP was there, it was only terrorism or insurgency. Now there is herdsmen problem. There are bandits. We are lucky that militancy had already cooled down and so forth. And issues for self-determination, like he mentioned, and are issues that came up. It's not about which party they belong, from whichever party you belong, or whoever you are supporting in any political party. The issue of self-determination is an issue of a particular people. Now, if Sunday Igboho is able to convince Yorubas that Yorubas have been marginalized, they have been this, that the Yorubas didn't look at him as a PDP man. They were looking at him more or less, first and foremost, as a Yoruba man who is fighting for their cause. So nobody even knows, like me, I don't even know which party Sunday Igboho belongs to. So Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is working for the interests of the Southeast. He believes that they have been marginalized. And it is bad leadership that is causing all these issues of self-determination. Before, were there issues of self-determination to this extent, where they are even becoming violent? No. There were, of course, some mushroom, like Mossop and so, but they were only engaging. They were the people that were engaging the Nigerian state in terms of quality intellectual discourse. Now, it has even come to violence. Violence has now been introduced because the people believe that they are not being carried along. They are not being given the status of first-class citizens. During Goodluck Jonathan, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Minister of Finance, Minister of Petroleum, quite a lot were from the southeast and so forth and so on. So, and south. And so they felt a sense of belonging. Now, in the whole of the cabinet, in his own immediate catchment area, even in the villa, you don't even have one Igbo man there. So how can you expect that the Igbos will not complain that they are being marginalized? Now, the only time the president will always mention anything is that he will say, by the constitution, he has appointed Igbos as the minister. Of course, that is the constitutional provision. Every state must have a minister, and so Igbos must have a minister. But those things that the constitution didn't mention that is a must. Where have you engaged? Where did you put them? And so forth. These are the issues that are causing the issues of self-determination. It is not about the political parties of the persons involved. And more so, the person said, I'm a PDP person. I think even in the introduction, you said I'm a PDP chieftain. So I don't know why somebody who I have already been introduced as a PDP chieftain, is still now talking that I'm a PDP person. Of course, I'm a PDP person. So what is the issue? If I look at issues from a holistic point of view, as a PDP person, am I not a Nigerian? Don't I have the right to examine issues from various degrees and various perspectives? Please remind me, Dr. Abati, if I have missed anything.
Yes, there was a question raised about the position of the Senate under Section 87, well, Clause 87 of the proposed amendment of the Electoral Act, Law of 2020, now Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021, with regard to the mode of selection of candidates, whether through direct primaries or indirect primaries, with the Senate now recommending direct primaries. And in his own opinion, he thinks that that's a better option, and he doesn't understand why the PDP is raising a hue and cry.
Okay, let me tell him that the reason behind the promulgation or the enactment of that act or bill, so trying to become an act, is not for national interest. It is self-serving, because most of the senators and most of the members of the National Assembly have been skewed away from their political parties and political positions by governors. Governors had already instituted certain category of people who will not stand election, even when a person is in the Senate or somebody is in the House of Reps. They have already made a choice. And now, to be able to counter the governor, they now decided to go and use direct primaries, where every member of the party will come out to vote. And if history is anything to go by, you never finish a direct primary, because there will be fights, there will be killing, that people don't line up as it is always written, because it ends up all the time in chaos and conflicts and anarchy and so forth and so on. So a law should not restrict somebody to a particular, the law should give alternatives. A law should be able to give alternatives. The law should say, okay, in the event that direct primaries becomes inconclusive or becomes chaotic, then the party can revert back to indirect primaries. Now, these are how laws are made. You don't just make a law and say it must be like this, or it is not. It cannot be done. So the PDP is not saying that we are against direct primary, but we are saying, where is the other alternative? In the event that direct primary fails, where do we revert back to?
Okay, Umar, Sani, we'll just take one more call or one more intervention and we'll wrap it up. We've already detained you beyond the schedule. Is there anybody out there on the line?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please keep it brief. We have to wrap up the program.
Let me be fast with this. PDP said they are power to the people. If they are power to the people, how are they going to give? How are going to make the people to be able to choose their choice of candidates? Because we already know that the indirect primaries is always killed for the people who have money to be able to buy candidates to vote them. That is why Nigerians are not able to select their own representatives to represent them at the election proper. So if PDP say their slogan is power to the people, they should give power to the people. PDP should stop their politics and be direct to issues and deal with the problem with Nigeria, stop their propaganda and do the right thing. They have been in power for how many years? 16 years. 16 years of PDP is doomed to Nigeria. They've destroyed Nigeria. They still want to continue to do that. Give power to the people, PDP.
Okay, Umar, Sani, well, you see the question of perception that I raised earlier, how the people perceive the PDP. And there you have an example of that kind of perception. Quickly, so that we can go.
Okay, let me state here that when the APC government came on board, they had a lot of goodwill. And because they had a lot of goodwill, Nigerians were tolerant of their excesses. They met fuel at 89 naira per liter, and they moved it to 162 naira per litre, and Nigerians were giving excuses to them because they had a lot of goodwill. Now, gradually, government began to collapse, and evidently, there is a failure of government. Before, when they came in, it was difficult for anybody to say I'm PDP because everybody would say useless party, this party, this. But as it is now, people are even more willing to say we are PDP. You can imagine in 2019 election, PDP that had 11 states in 2015 now moved to about 16 states. And because PDP lost about 3 states due to manipulation, Osun State ought to have gone to PDP. Imo State, number 4 became number 1. And Kano State, where the PDP clearly won, but power of incumbency and power security agencies were deployed to. So the PDP ordinarily ought to have gotten about 20 states. So would you say now that the PDP had nosedive? No, they have improved because Nigerians have the opportunity to compare. And they have compared and contrasted, and they have found that the PDP is much better. Now, when the PDP was leaving, $1 was 198 naira to $1, and now it is 575 to $1. So how can you juxtapose this and say that PDP is a bad government? PDP, debt forgiveness was during PDP. So many, the GSM that we are now using to do Zoom is during PDP. And so many other things the PDP have done to shape Nigeria. Let him tell us what the APC has done in making Nigeria great again.
Well, I think at this point we'll have to call it off and just thank you very much for joining us. I see that the dashboard here is blinking on all buttons, but I understand today is also a special day for the All Progressives Congress with the congresses going on around the country. But we'll have enough time, later, much later, to look at that other issue. But today we'll focus on the major development within the People's Democratic Party with the emergence by consensus of a chairman of the party. So many issues emerging on the political scene, but I want to assure you that on this program, we'll focus on all the issues, political, social, human. And would like on that note to thank you very much, Umar Sani the Cat, for joining us on City Talks. For joining us on City Talks with Reuben Abati. And I would also like to thank all our callers and those who reach out to us on Zoom and Facebook and other social media platforms. Remember, the conversation does not end here. You can still reach out to me on my social media account at Abati1990 and also on Instagram. And also at City1051 on all social media platforms. For those of you who tuned in late, well, there's no need to worry. You can visit YouTube page City1051 to watch the entire show shortly. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and leave comments. And don't forget also to tune in next week at noon for another exciting edition of City Talks. My name is Reuben Abati. The show was produced by Adedoja Allen, Abiodun Odunton, Ayodamola Oludara, Bello Hakim, and Oluwaseun Adetitun. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great weekend. We'll join you again next week. Bye for now.
City Talks with Reuben Abati.